Why letting go is so hard, and how Buddhism helps. Chapter 1. Why we hold on. The truth about being human. There's something quietly honest about how we hold on to things. We don't always notice it, but it's there. In the way we check our phones for messages we hope will come. In the way we keep old photos or replay conversations that happened years ago. Even in the way we resist falling asleep at night, as if letting go of today is too much. Holding on isn't just a habit. It's a part of being human. The Buddha taught that the world is on fire with craving. This fire, this deep restlessness, burns quietly in our hearts. We crave love, safety, belonging. And when these things feel threatened, even slightly, we begin to cling. Sometimes we cling to people. Sometimes to our roles, our stories, our identities. And sometimes we hold on to pain, not because we want to suffer, but because we're afraid of what might happen if we loosen our grip. Fear plays a quiet, powerful role in this. The fear of being alone, the fear of being nothing, of being forgotten. And under it all, the fear of change. We want the things we love to stay. We want the moments we treasure to last forever. But the Buddha reminded us, everything is impermanent. Nothing lasts, not even our fears. Still, we treat the ever-changing as if it's solid. We believe the ground beneath us is stable, until life reminds us it never was. This resistance to change, this belief that we can find safety in things that don't stay, is one of the reasons we suffer. We forget that life is like a river. It moves, it flows, and the more we try to stop it, the more we struggle. But this isn't a flaw in us, it's a misunderstanding. We weren't taught how to float, we were taught to grip. There's also something else, something a bit more hidden. We hold on because we want to be someone. We want to be seen, known, remembered. And in trying to be somebody, we create a version of ourselves that feels fixed. A self with a name, a story, a past. But this self, as the Buddha saw it, is just a bundle of conditions. It's not permanent. It's not solid. It's a process that changes with every thought, every emotion, every breath. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Many of the things we hold on to are not choices we made with awareness. They are habits of the mind, shaped by fear and memory. We act from them, speak from them, and build our lives around them. And then, when something challenges these inner patterns, we feel like we're falling apart. But we're not falling apart. We're being shown what's not real. The Buddha didn't judge us for this. He understood how deeply human it is. He offered no blame, only clarity. He taught that craving leads to suffering, not because we're bad, but because we're confused. We think that holding on will give us peace, when in truth, peace only comes when we let go. And yet, letting go isn't simple. It's not just about releasing things. It's about seeing clearly, about understanding what we're truly holding on to and why. Sometimes, we carry an old identity because we think it's who we are. Sometimes, we cling to relationships that have already changed because the silence that follows scares us more than the pain we know. And sometimes, we hold tight not because something is good, but because it's familiar. What makes this even harder is that we're rarely aware of the cost, of what it takes to keep holding on. The energy it drains, the peace it robs, the space it fills. And when our hands are already full, with stories, fears, regrets, how can we possibly receive anything new? How can we open ourselves to peace when we're still wrapped in the pain of the past? The Buddha didn't offer easy answers, but he offered a way, a path of seeing, a path of softening, and in that path, a quiet question begins to rise, not from fear, but from wisdom. What happens when the things we hold on to start holding us? And that's where the story turns. Because while holding on might feel like strength, there comes a time when it becomes a burden, when it weighs us down, closes our hearts, and narrows our view. So before we talk about how to let go, we have to look at the cost of not letting go. What happens when we can't release the stories we've lived with for too long? What happens when the pain becomes part of who we think we are? Chapter 2. What happens when we can't let go? There's a quiet heaviness that builds when we hold on too long. At first, it feels like strength, like we're protecting something precious. But over time, it begins to press down on us. It shapes how we see the world, how we move through it, how we breathe. When we can't let go, we don't just carry memories. We carry the weight of pain we no longer need. A harsh word spoken years ago, a mistake we made when we didn't know better, a love that left. These echoes linger not because they're true now, but because we keep listening to them. We start to believe they define who we are. But the Buddha reminded us, you are not your suffering. You are the awareness that sees it, the one who can hold pain gently and let it pass through without letting it build a home inside. The harder we try to control life, the more it slips through our fingers. That's one of the hardest truths to accept. We make plans, draw boundaries, try to protect our hearts. But life moves with its own rhythm. Births and deaths, beginnings and endings, joys and losses. It doesn't ask for our permission. And still, we try to hold on, hoping that control will bring safety. But control doesn't bring peace. It brings exhaustion. The Buddha taught that peace comes not from winning against life, but from moving with it. Letting go is not giving up. It's finally putting down what hurts you. It's like standing in a river. When you stop fighting the current, you stop drowning. You start to float. And here's something many forget. What we hold begins to hold us. That's karma in its simplest form. A grudge from the past? It becomes the lens we see today through. An old heartbreak? It colors how we trust now. The Buddha taught, from attachment comes suffering, from non-attachment comes freedom. The more tightly we grip, the more tangled we become. But if we release the grip, not out of anger, not out of fear, but out of clarity, something shifts. There's space, there's breath. Still, there's a voice inside many of us that whispers, but if I let go, what will be left of me? It's a quiet fear, but deep. We confuse what we've carried with who we are. We think letting go means losing our identity, our purpose, even our heart. But here's the truth. When we let go, we don't lose ourselves. We lose the masks, the defenses, the illusions. What's left is more real than anything we were clinging to. What's left is not empty. It's clear, spacious, alive. And then there's love. Maybe the hardest thing to release, because love and attachment can feel so similar. We ask ourselves, if I let go of this person, this memory, this hope, does that mean it wasn't love? Does it mean I failed? But no. Real love isn't proven by how long you hold on. It's revealed by how gently you can release when the time comes. It's not about never letting go. It's about not clinging out of fear. The Buddha never said, "Don't love." He reminded us, let go of clinging, not of compassion. You can love deeply and still let go when love turns into fear, when care turns into control, when what once brought life starts draining it. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's respect for yourself and for the other person. And heartbreak? It doesn't mean you failed. Feeling deeply is not failure. It's being human. Even the Buddha felt sorrow. He witnessed suffering all around him, but he didn't get trapped in it. He saw it, felt it, and let it move through him, like wind through leaves. So maybe the question isn't, should I let go? But what am I really holding on to? Is it love, or the idea of love? Is it truth, or just fear in disguise? You can sit with this question quietly. No need to rush it. When you stop trying to control the answer, something inside softens, and from that softness, clarity comes. Letting go isn't the end of the story. It's the moment the story becomes honest. Chapter 3. What letting go really means. Letting go is often misunderstood. Some think it means giving up or walking away from what matters. But in truth, letting go is one of the most courageous things a person can do. It means standing still in the middle of change and not running. It means trusting life, even when you don't know what's coming next. The Buddha reminded us that change is part of life. Nothing stays still. Even the strongest tree bends with the wind. He taught that clinging to things, whether it's a person, a memory, or a dream, is like trying to hold on to smoke. The more tightly we grasp, the more it slips away. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop trying to control what cannot be controlled. You stop tying your peace to outcomes. It's an inner release, a quiet saying, I'm not going to fight this anymore. Not out of weakness, but because there's nothing to fight. Real strength shows when you stop struggling with reality, when you stop trying to change the waves and instead learn how to float. The Buddha said, "Drop by drop, the water jar is filled." In the same way, peace comes drop by drop when we stop holding on so tightly. You can still love someone deeply, even if they are no longer in your life the way they once were. Love doesn't have to become ownership. The Buddha never said love is a problem. What he pointed to was our craving to keep love exactly as we want it. But love is not a photograph. It's a living thing. It changes. Real love gives space. It breathes. It lets the other person grow, even if that growth takes them away from you. Sometimes we confuse letting go with losing everything. But often, when we let go, we find what we were really holding back: our own freedom. You can love fully and still let go. You can care without clinging. You can show up for your life, fully present, without trying to freeze it in place. The Buddha taught us mindfulness as a way to see clearly, not through force, but through awareness. When you're mindful, you begin to notice the rising and falling of thoughts, feelings, and even identities. You start to understand. This moment is here now, and it too will pass. This helps soften the grip. It helps us stop fighting what is. And science, too, is beginning to echo what the Buddha taught. Neuroscientists now understand that mindfulness actually changes the brain. It quiets the fear centers, calms the nervous system, and helps people live with more peace and balance. It's not just a nice idea. It's something that changes you from the inside out. Letting go also means flowing with life instead of resisting it. The ancient Taoist teacher 𝐂𝐴𝐸 once said, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." That's not far from what the Buddha showed us. When we stop trying to force our way through life, we start to align with it. We stop asking life to follow our script, and we learn to listen instead. This doesn't mean you lose yourself. It means you let go of the version of yourself that was built on fear, control, and stories that no longer serve you. What's left behind is not emptiness. It's clarity. It's a lighter way of being. Letting go doesn't always look like action. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's just a shift in your heart, a softening, a small yes to what is. And that shift changes everything. Not on the outside, maybe, but on the inside, something quiet and steady begins to grow. When people talk about freedom in Buddhism, this is what they mean. Not a life without responsibility, not a life without love, but a life where love and peace are not tied to control or fear. A life where your hands are open, not clenched. Where your heart is soft, not guarded. Where you can say goodbye and still feel whole. The Buddha didn't promise that letting go would always feel easy, but he did show that it leads to peace. A peace that doesn't depend on how things turn out. A peace that stays, even when everything else falls away. And that peace, quiet, grounded, and free, is something that no one can give you or take away. It's yours. It's always been yours. Chapter 4. If I lose everything, what do I have left? There comes a moment, maybe in grief, in heartbreak, or simply in silence, when we ask ourselves, if I lose everything, what do I really have left? No more job, no more name, no more person beside you at the end of the day. No more me that you've spent your whole life trying to build, protect, prove. The question doesn't come with fireworks. It comes in quiet, often after a loss, after the stories you told yourself no longer make sense, after the things you thought were forever vanish. And in that silence, a strange thing can happen. Instead of panic, there's space. Instead of identity, there's presence. Because what's left when everything is gone is the one who was watching the whole time. The Buddha reminded us, be a light unto yourself. Not a title, not a belief, not even a body, but a quiet, steady light, awareness itself. Even if everything disappears, you still remain as this awareness, not as something to hold, but as the simple seeing of what is. You're not your job, your relationships, or the past. You're not even your thoughts about who you are. All those things come and go, but the one who notices them doesn't come and doesn't go. That's what remains. And then comes another surprise. Even when others are gone, love stays. It changes shape. It's no longer "I love you," but a softer, deeper kind of love. One that no longer needs to hold or possess. One that doesn't need to be returned. It becomes compassion. The kind that feels for every being who's ever had to let go. It becomes strength. Not loud or dramatic, but the strength to remain open, even when the heart has broken. It becomes peace, not by escaping pain, but by embracing it with gentleness. The Buddha taught that even when everything falls away, the path remains. Not in the form of rules or rituals, but in the breath that moves in and out, in the ground beneath your feet, in the silence you can return to when thoughts grow too loud. In that moment, when you lose what you thought you were, something deeper reveals itself. Not something new, but something that was always there, just hidden behind the noise. That's why the Buddha didn't promise that life would always feel full. He didn't say we'd keep everything we love. He simply offered a way to stay steady through the changing tides. Just as a solid rock is not shaken by the wind, he taught, the wise are not moved by praise or blame. What he meant was this: the winds of life will blow. You will lose things. People will misunderstand you. Some days, even you won't understand yourself. But if you've touched the stillness underneath, the awareness that watches without fear, then even when everything else falls, you won't collapse. You'll bend maybe. You'll cry, but you'll stay rooted. Because you've learned to rest in something that cannot be taken. So when the question returns, what do I have left? The answer is simple. You have awareness. You have the capacity to love. You have the path, the practice, even when everything else is gone. And in the end, that's not a loss. That's freedom. Letting go is not the end. It's the way home. Soft, steady, and free.